Okay, so this is part 2 of Tehilim Kuf Lamed Tes, which we started last week, and basically we read, translated, identified the pivot point, asked questions, and then came up with a couple of theories. Game plan tonight is we're going to reread, and I think I want to read the Hebrew with our translation, and then I also want to read the Targum translation, which we did not do last time. We'll review our questions, and then I want to take us on an odyssey through the Meiri. Okay. I only read the Meiri and the Radak, but it's just an amazing pirush. I mean, not that the Meiri needs my praise, but it's just like very good, and I'm pretty confident. I have not finalized the main idea, but I'm pretty confident we're going to get to the main idea just because he's so clear. Okay, so let's start off reviewing. And by the way, usually what I do in our part 2 of Tehilim shiur is I clean up our what we wrote. I did not do that this time because the Meiri is going to translate certain things differently, and we'll just let him lead the way. But we'll do this for our review. Okay, Lam Nateach LaDavid Mizmor, for the conductor by David a psalm. Hashem chakartani vateda. Hashem, oh Hashem, you have investigated me and you know. Ata yadata shivti v'kumi banta l'rei mirachok. You knew my sitting and my rising up. You understand my thoughts from afar. Orchi v'rivi risa. You, my path and my lying down or my repose, you have encircled. V'chol derachai hiskanta, and you are acquainted with all my ways. Ki ein mila bilashoni, hein Hashem yadata kula. For there's no word on my tongue. Behold, Hashem, you knew it all. Achor v'kedem sartani v'tashes alai kapecha. You, back and front, you have confined me. You have placed your palm on me. Chliya da'as mimeni niskava lo uchala. Knowledge is too wondrous for me. It is lofty. I'm incapable of attaining it. Ana elef miruchecha, ana mipanecha evrach. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Im esak shemaim shamata va'atzia sheol hineka. If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the grave, then you're there. Esa kanfe shachar eshkana ba'achri siam. If I take up the wings of dawn, if I were to dwell at the end of the sea, gam sham yadcha tanchini v'tochazeni yaminecha. There too, your hand guides me and your right hand grasps me. Va'omar achoshach yushafeni v'layla or ba'adeni. I say, surely darkness will shadow me, but then light would become as light around me. Gam choshech lo yachshich mimeka v'layla kayom ya'ir kachashecha ka'ora. Even darkness obscures not from you, and night will illuminate like day, like darkness, like light. Like light. Ki'aka kanisa chiliosai tisukini beveten imi. You have created my kidneys, my thoughts. You have covered me in the womb of my mother. Odacha al kino raos niflesi niflai masacha v'nafshi odas ma'od. I thank you for the wonders you have wondered me with, meaning you have, I guess, made me experience wonder with. Oh, how wondrous are your works. Lo nichachad atzmi mimeka asher usesi vaseser. My being is not concealed from you, which you have made in secret. Rukamti besachtios aretz. You have, when I was knit together in the lowest parts of the earth, galmi rao enecha v'al sifcha kulam yikasevu yamim yutzaru v'lo echad behem. My being is not concealed from you. Oh, I read that. Your eyes saw my unshaped form, and in your book all were recorded. Though they will be fashioned through many days, to him they are one. 17. V'li ma yakru re'echa el me'atzmu rashehem. And to me, how glorious are your thoughts, O God, how very great are their headings. Asaprem mechol yirbun, hekitzosi v'odi imach. Were I to count them, they would be more numerous than the sand. Were I to be constantly awake and always with you. Im tiktol eloah rasha ve'anshe damim suru meni. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, O men of blood. Asher yomerucha limzima nasu lashav arecha. For those who pronounce your name for wicked schemes, it is in vain by your enemies. It is taken in vain by your enemies. For indeed, those who hate you, Hashem, I hate them, and I quarrel with those who quarrel with you. I hate them with the utmost hatred. They are as enemies to me. Investigate me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if I have a vexing way, and guide me in the way of eternity. Okay, so we will review the questions in a second, but we made the clear pivot point here. I think this is very difficult to dispute, that the the perek can be cleanly divided in 1 through 18 on the one side, and then 19 through 23 at the other side. Or at the very least, you can say 19 through, you could argue 19 through 22 is the other theme, and then 23 returns back. But I think that 23 is part of the second one. And the themes, loosely speaking, are Hashem's knowledge of me and my inability to know and to escape, and my being in wonder. That's like the first half. And then the last part is destruction of the enemies. Okay, so that was our big question. How do you unify those things? Okay, but our specific questions were, we'll go through all of them. One, is this referring to some specific scenario as indicated by the Seifa, by the last part, because David is asking for the wicked to be destroyed? So is this some episode in David's life? Or is this a universal themed perek, as would be indicated by the Reisha? All the stuff in Pesukim 1 through 18 seem like they apply all the time, and they're not unique to David and not about his life. Two, is the theme of the first half has something to do with God's total knowledge and presence, but from the word choice, the diction, it seems negative. Why does it sound like David is trying to hide from God as if from an enemy? It has a very Yonah vibe. Okay, this is where I want to read to you the second translation, okay? The Ksuvim. Okay, listen to how much negativity is injected into this. And note, those who can see the screen, the style here is anything that is modified from the Hebrew, then they put in italics, okay? So we're going to read it very fast, but you'll see what I'm talking about. For praise composed by David, a psalm. O Lord, you have searched me out and known me. It is manifest before you when I sit down to study the Torah, and when I rise up to go to war. You understand my fellowship in your congregation from a people far off. Okay, so my fellowship in your congregation from a people far off, meaning a nation that's distant from God. Now, when I walk in the road or when I recline to study the Torah, you have become a stranger, and you have made all my ways dangerous. And when there is no speech on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know the thought of my heart completely. From behind me and in front of me, you have confined me, and you have inflicted on me the blow of your hand. It is hidden from my knowing. It is too mighty. I am not capable of it. Where will I go from the presence of your storm wind? And where will I flee from your presence? Very, very Yonah-like. If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I lower myself to Sheol, behold, there is your word. Which, by the way, that's a very I know this is not Onkelos, but it's very Onkelos-like Targum, because I don't know if I voiced this last time. When we say go to heaven, you're there. I get that because God is associated with the heavens. But when we go to the grave, then you're there. That's a little weird association. So he says your word is there. I will lift up the fringes of sunrise. I will abide at the ends of the sea. Also there your hand will guide me and your right hand will seize me. And I said, truly darkness will blind me. Okay, again, conceal me, whatever. And the night will become dark for my sake. Also, the darkness will not be too dark for your word. And the night like day will give light, like darkness like light, they are equal. Okay, and then the rest is not so negative, but I'm going to read through it anyway. For you have created my kidneys, you established me in the belly of my mother. I will give you thanks, for you have miraculously done awesome things. Your works are wonderful, and my soul knows it well. Myself is not hidden from you, for I was made in secret. I was formed in the belly of my mother. Your eyes see my body, and in the book of your remembrance, all my days were written on the day the world was created. Okay, that's Biyom Isbri Alma, so that's Rosh Hashanah. In the beginning, all creatures were created, but not on a single day among them. And how precious to me are those who love you, the righteous, O God, and how mighty have their scholars become. I will number them in this age, and they will be more numerous than the sand. I awake in the age to come, and still I am with you. If you slay, O God, the wicked man, then men who are worthy of the judgment of death will depart from me. Who will swear in your name for deception, taking an oath in vain, your enemies? Do I not hate all those who hate you, O Lord? And when they rise against you, I am incensed. I hate them to the destruction of the hatred. They have become enemies to me. Search me out, O God, and know my thoughts. Examine me and know my thinking, and see if there is a way of error in me, and guide me in the path of those eternally upright. Okay, so the first part I wanted to call your attention to, but that was a good review anyway. Okay, back to our questions. 3, David emphasizes his own inferiority and Hashem's superiority. If he recognizes that he's so inferior, how can he request that Hashem destroy the wicked? He seems to downplay his own knowledge. So it's all this, I'm unworthy, I don't even know you, I'm trying to get away from you, I have all these, sins seemingly, and destroy the wicked, for me. Okay, 4, the tone in some places sounds like he's shocked to discover this, but didn't he know this already? Seems like he's having the sudden realization of things that ought to have been obvious. 5, what's with the dramatic pivot? Not only abrupt, but seemingly wholly unrelated, non-sequitorial. 6, what is the point of contrasting God's superior knowledge of him with his own inferior knowledge of God's works? Okay, then we get into the particular questions on the pasukim. On pasuk 2, he describes Hashem as knowing him from afar, but much of the rest of this emphasizes God's closeness. So that's a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Incongruency. 11 through 12, what is the idea of darkness and light here, especially vis-a-vis God? 13 through 16, what's up with the earthly fetus vibes and theme? 16, what's up with this book? Why is it mentioned here? 14, the spontaneous thanksgiving seems out of place and out of tone. 18, what is he saying about God, counting God's thoughts and staying awake? I don't know if you notice how the Targum dealt with that. He says, I will count God's righteous and God's scholars. Okay, so that was sensing our problem. Why is he emphasizing that he's on God's side? In the first pasuk and the last pasuk, or the second to last pasuk, he says, you've investigated me and you know, but then he concludes by saying the same thing in the imperative, investigate me and know. So which is it? Did God do it, or is he asking him for him to do it? What is this bakasha? What is this request? Asking God to search him for a vexing way. Why would he invite this or need to invite this? Don't we typically ask God not to look for faults? And then what is the vexing way that he's concerned with? Okay, any new questions that came up as we read this review?
Aside from like what's the vibe with the Targum?
Yeah. There's one thing that I actually did not mention when we did in the Hebrew. I don't even know if I noticed it. And the only reason I'm hyper-focused on it, spoiler, is because the Meiri addresses it, but also because I've lately been reading about the Radox methodology. And you notice here in pasuk Tes Zayin, there is a Kri Ksiv. Okay, Galmi Ra'uei Nechav Al Sifcha Kulam Yikasevu Yami Mutzaru Vilo Echad Bahem. So it says, it's written as Vilo Echad Bahem with an aleph, meaning and not any one of them. But in the Ksiv, in the Kri, the way you're supposed to read it is Vilo, to him belong Echad Bahem, one among them. Okay, or to him there are one among them. So the Radox method, and we've seen this in Rabbeinu Yonah and Mishlei, but he always interprets both. Okay, it's like a way to get in double meaning. So a question just to tack on there in anticipation for the Meiri's answer is so this is in 16, how do we understand the low double meaning? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Let's just quickly review the approaches that we started drafting last time. So Isaiah's idea was, my notes say this perek is about David's pursuit of knowledge. He recognizes that Hashem knows everything about everything, and even those even in those areas where David is in the dark, there is knowledge that can be gained. That's what it means to Hashem. The darkness is like light, but to David is like darkness. Perhaps the second half is a reference to the Yetzer Hara and factors that are impeding this quest for knowledge. He concludes by pleading with Hashem, saying, you know that I am able to pursue this knowledge. The book pasuk is about how Hashem knows everything as man, everything about man as one. That's like the same mashal we use on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so that was a good approach. And then I had a similar approach, or a different approach for the second half. I said that that the enemies that David's referring to are people who are opposed to knowledge, and that's what it means when it says that they take the name of Hashem in vain. And I guess I didn't write this. And David is asking, is saying that I search me to see if I have any qualities like these evildoers, because the only basis I have for asking that they be destroyed is that I am different from them, in that I am devoted to pursuing knowledge of Hashem. And we've seen that theme elsewhere in Tehilim. That's how David often differentiates himself from his enemies. Okay, and then Akiva said that David has a long build up to this bakasha, in which he does a thorough self-searching to determine the basis of all his decisions and asks Hashem to make sure that he has a correct apprehension of himself. He's emphasizing that he's exhausted his self-knowledge and resources and gone as far as he can. That's a good idea also, is that it's about self-knowledge. And then I don't think Akiva explained the second half. Okay, anyone have anything to add? If not, then we're going to dive into the Meiri. Okay, so here's how I think we should do this, so that this does not become just like me reading and translating. I want to read and translate each pasuk, and then I want us to think about, the main point and what insights we get. And and then we'll try to put it all together at the end. Okay, so here we go. Meiri says, I think there's one word on this previous page here. Kavanas hamizmor. So the intent of the perek, hoda'a lakel, v'hoda'a hakafas yediaso kol nimsa. Okay, so actually what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take notes, and I'm gonna try not to give into my inclination to translate everything word for word in the notes, like I often sometimes do. So, but I will translate the theme of the perek though, because that's one sentence. So the theme is thanks to God, and making known his all-encompassing knowledge of every existing thing. And then v'siper ktsas niflos losov b'brios ha'olam u'v'prat v'tzius ha'ubar, and recounting some of the of his wonders in creation, especially in the formation of the fetus. He's palabo harashayim hamatridim oso omonim oso shlemos. There you go. This might be where I got my idea from, by the way. And praying on his behalf about the wicked who distract him and prevent and withhold perfection from him, or I guess impede his perfection, impede his perfection. V'shilibo shalim l'davkabo b'lo si, and that his heart is whole with him without any impurity. Yeah, Isaiah.
Okay, first, is that a pun at the very beginning? Hoda and Hodas.
Oh, is this the second time we've seen a pun from the Meiri?
I don't know.
A pun from the Meiri in where did we talk about this?
In Avos, maybe?
No, in Mishlei. In Mishlei this Monday.
I
think. There's
nice.
Okay, so now we've got two pieces of evidence that the Meiri engages in puns. Yeah, perhaps.
And I'm also just observing that to me, it still feels like I don't understand we just started, but like from this thing that he said, like the first half and second half seem not related so far.
So what I'm going to suggest is I am going to lean into our theory, your theory and my theory, which is that God knows all existing things. And there's a line where the Rambam says this. I know the Rambam says this in different words all over the place, but there's a line. Oh, I know where it is. Just let me see if I have it. Purpose of man, of human existence. There it was. Yeah. The Rambam defines as the purpose of human existence. Wait for it. Okay, let's see here. I think it's on this page. Yeah, here we go. So he basically says that every creature and organism has its own purpose. I know that idea is not exactly like in line with modern science, but Aristotelian framework, then everything has a purpose. So he says the scientists chakru kol pu'ulos of achas k'tei l'das ma tachliso ma mikol pu'ulos ha'ila. The philosophers or the scientists investigated the actions of each and everything to know what is its purpose and among all these actions. Umatu shetachliso pulachas bivad. Sorry, talking about the human being, because man can do many things, but man has one purpose alone, one activity. Ushar pulos of inan ela lahamshachas ki umo k'dei shetushlam bo osa pu'ula hayachidis. And all of man's other actions are only to preserve his existence so that he can perfect that one singular activity. V'hi hasagas hamuskalos v'yedias ha'amitos aburiam. Maybe this is not. Hold on. I mean, this is the idea, but maybe it's not the line I was referring to. I'll continue reading anyway, though. The man's singular purpose is to apprehend the concepts and know the truths clearly. Okay, I'm not going to go through all this. Hold on. I thought he says there's a place, maybe it's in the More Nevuchim, where he says the purpose of man is to know everything that can be known. Okay, and the reason why I'm bringing that in is, obviously we talk a lot about how the purpose of man is knowledge of God, but knowing everything that can be known would be a really, really good v'halafta bidrachav for God. In other words, God knows everything that can be known, and man should emulate that and strive to know everything that can be known, and that is his perfection. And so giving samplings of that in terms of talking about the wonders in creation, and then talking about the fetus, meaning that man is, can, we'll get into this with the Meiri a little bit, but knowing his own self. And then saying that the wicked are the ones who impede me from doing this, and what differentiates me from them is the fact that I am dedicated to this and they're opposed to it. So I think that's like the unity. That's how we'll keep our eyes on the ball. Okay. So now let's, Ayala, go ahead.
Maybe he'll like elaborate on this further, but is he, when he says the thanks to God, is that specifically referring to like the one pasuk where he talks about thanks, or is there other places which David seems to be
Good
like,
question. Good question.
Thanks?
Let's I think I'm glad you asked that now. Let's keep our eyes open for that and note whenever he touches on that theme. Okay, so now we're going to go through it. And what I want you to appreciate, we don't always do this. Usually we try to focus on the main idea. He really brings out the poetry of Tehilim. And I don't mean in a like literary sense. I mean in a, David is crafting perfect mashalim. Okay, so he says like this, V'amar, Hashem chakartani vateda. Hashem, you have investigated me and you know. Now, our question is, I think we asked this also, why use the term investigate for God? God doesn't arrive at knowledge through a process. He just knows it, right? So why would it use this? It seems to be distort things. So here's what he says. V'yadua, it is known, shehamilos mushalos b'lashon etel abore b'lashon b'nei adam, that terms are used equivocally about the Creator. V'hayedia hachazaka libnei adam, the strongest knowledge for man, hi haba achar hachakira, is knowledge that comes after investigation. Ulezeh amar bakel, chakartani b'teda. That's why it says about God, you have investigated me and you know. Klomar, yedatani yedia brura. You have known me with clear knowledge. Ki ilu haisa yediascha achar hakira iun. As if you attained your knowledge after investigation and analysis. V'hu inyan chokir levu b'lecha in klayos. That's what it means when it says God analyzes the heart and searches out the kidneys. Klomar, yadata kol inyanai, ein kol davar nela mimeka. Meaning you know all of my affairs, everything about me, and nothing is hidden from you. Okay, so this is pasuk 1. I'm just going to try to do it in one sentence summaries. Okay, so God's knowledge is the clearest possible, akin to human knowledge after Hakira. Okay, so that's just like a perfect example of Lashon Bnei Adam talk. Okay, all right. So next is 2 and 3. Okay, so let's just reread 2 and 3. Ata yadata shivti v'kumi banta me l'reimi rachok orchi v'rivi zerisa v'chol dorachai hiskata. Okay, I'm highlighting these because that's what the Meiri is going to talk about. Okay, so what does this mean? So he says, Upirit b'zeh rov tenuos adam. So it specifies the majority of human movements. V'hizkir mehem, it mentions of them, ha'adam hafucha, arba, 4 of them. Yeshiva v'kima, sitting and standing. V'hu omro shifti v'kumi. V'hahalicha v'shchiva. V'hu omro orchi v'rivi. That's my way and my lying down. Umilas rivi'im inyan revitza, milas and targum. Okay, fine, it's Aramaic. Ve'elu, or based on Aramaic. Ve'elu harba him rov tenuos adam. That's mostly what you do. What do you do all day? Someone asks you, what do you do all day? Well, I sat and I stood and I walked and I was lying down, and you're always going from one of those to the other one. So it's basically saying like the 4 motions of man and everything in between. Okay, it's like the alphabet of motions and everything in between. Klomar shekol tenuosai yadata heim v'sibusem. Okay, you know all my movements, you know them and their causes. Okay, I'll summarize this. Re'i is from Rotzalomar Machshavi, my thought, Miloshin Rayon, from thoughts. Umerachok, from afar, Rotzalomar Mizman Rachok, from a far off time. Klomar Kodem She'ech Shavosa, before I think it, you know it. Okay, so let me summarize this here. So you know all my movements, okay, and their causes, and you know my thoughts before I have them. Okay, he's going to elaborate on this. V'zerisa, what does that mean? Kamo hakafta, you surrounded. Miloshin zer zahav. I think I said that when we went through it. Zer zahav saviv, when we said zerisi. Mashal kamaki fadavar. It's like encircling a thing. She'ino yachol lazuz Misham bilti yediaso, meaning it's like the ultimate security camera setup is I can't move without you knowing me. You've got me circled with 360-degree view or whatever the total view is. Okay. V'chol darachai hiskanta. What does hiskanta mean? So Art Scroll translated it. We translated it as what is hiskanta? That's from pasuk and the pasuk gimel. You are acquainted with. I think we probably got that from Art Scroll. Yeah, you're familiar with all my ways, and Alter says the same thing. Okay, so what does this mean? Lashon regilos means familiarity. It's the same idea as the first one. Okay, but now he goes like this. We know that man has knowledge of that which he is habituated in, and that is clear knowledge to him. For this reason, it says equivocally about God, that his knowledge is clear. So this is our second metaphor for divine knowledge. Okay, I just want to keep track of these. Okay, metaphors for God's omniscience. Okay, we have Chakira. I can make this bigger. Chakira, okay, investigation. Hiskanta, which is familiarity based on regularity. So he's saying the same point, but it's through a different mashal, right? That you are, we would say, your own right hand, okay, to use a David Melech mashal, right? Not because you've investigated it, but because you've had it your whole life and you use it so much, So like it's a different mashal for clear knowledge. Okay. Then he says, "Ki uvchol doracha." Nope. Yeah. V'yesh lafarish he's kind of poil yotze. V'hu choser al tenuas ha'ivarim shu's kuru. You could translate this. Oh, we just did this on Monday. Anyone remember what a poil yotze? I always put poil yotze and poil omed. Poel yotze. Is that I think that's a transitive verb. Po yotze is transitive verb, which means it has a direct object. Okay, so what does that mean? Hiskanta, so how would you read this if it has a direct object? Chol derachai hiskanta. So the first way he read it was, you are familiar with all my ways. This way would say, let's see what if he explains. And in all of my ways and my affairs, you have habituated my limbs in all of their movements that they need. All of man's movements were set with wisdom and order. And they are needed in terms of distancing or going close. And this is the amazing part. As soon as you desire to do any movement, all of your limbs that need this, external and internal, they all obey and follow in line to assist that movement. And they're accustomed to this because of how they're designed by God. Okay, this is the ninth grader who I always quote. One of his good Q&A questions recently was, why? What did he say? He said, why aren't we conscious of all of the things that our body is doing? Meaning, he said, like, my white blood cells know how to like take care, like fight off diseases or whatever. So like, but why am I not aware of that? Like I am. So the only answer I could give to him, I gave to him, which I seems to be the answer, is evolutionarily, it would be too taxing on the brain and too distracting to be aware of that stuff. So like it is made automatic. But he's referring to that phenomenon is like, imagine if you had to like work out how to move every one of your limbs. And I guess people who have brain injury or other types of injury, and they have to go to like physical therapy to like relearn how to do all these things. That's like the most similar that we have to this, but it's not even conscious. Like you're not controlling your tendons consciously. It's like amazing that everything is set forth. So this is the second way of reading it is Orchi B'rivi Zerisa Uvechol Durachai Hiskanta, and you have made me like you've set all of my habits in order, I guess, like in terms of my habitual movements. Okay, so this is so you know all my movements and the causes, and you know my thoughts before I have them, and all my movements are sorry, this doesn't have spell check. Movements are known in detail by you. Okay, that's familiar. Familiar. Or you have programmed them to obey my will. Okay. Feel free to interject anytime. We're just going through this Meiri, taking it slow here. Okay. Then he says, V'amar, ein mila b'lashoni, klomer, od ein hadibor b'pi. The word is not even in my mouth. V'lo hotzasi machshavti l'dibor, and I have not expressed my thought in speech. Shata yadata kula, you know it all. Hu inen banti l'rei merachok. That's what it means that you understood my thought from afar. He explained that same idea. Ela shederech haflaga shevach hu kofel ha'inyanim tamin. This is a new idea. Okay. He says the way of excessive praise is to repeat things constantly. So we're familiar with the phrase kafal hadavar b'mila shonos, that he repeats the same thing in different language, which we always say is repeating it for emphasis or repeating it to make it real to the emotions. Here he's saying it's a style of shevach. It's a style of praise to like, when you want to give excessive praise, you say it in many different ways, you know. So it's related to the idea that we're saying that it's like for the emotions, but he's saying it's specifically a style of praise. Okay, so this one is you know my word before as soon as I think, before I even think it. Okay, 5. It didn't omit words there. Sartani. Okay, it's missing a word there. That's interesting. You have surrounded me, right? Or besieged me. Okay. Oh, this is cool also. Hu inyan orchi zirisi kit sartani meaning matzor v'hekef. So sartani means to besiege or to surround. Klomar achor v'kedem hikpatani. Hikaftani, you've encircled me all around, front and back. Shlo uchal lazuz bilti yediaska. I can't move without your knowledge. The zachar shtei haruchos b'makom arba. It mentions 2 directions in place of 4. If Amar v'tashas like kapecha, and says you place your palm upon me. Karomis derech mashal al tnuas ma'ala. That's alluding to upward movement. Klomar im ertel lelechas derech ma'ala. If I want to go up, hine kapecha alai. Right, your hand is above my head. Uvichla tnua mata. And included in that is downward motion. It's mentioning all 6 directions that you have movement under. Reminds me of how, the reason why we wave the lulav. Okay, the lashon of the waving of the lulav and esrog is molech umevi male umorid. Okay, and it's pretty clear that like it's a machlokus rishonim. Rambam holds that you go 4 directions: front, back, up, and down. None of this like all 4 directions type thing. But the reason why is because the reason for that other minhag is that the Gemara says that the reason why we wave molech and maybe lamisha ha'arba ruchos shelo, that we go back and forth for the one that owns the 4 directions. So that's why people do the 4 directions. But the Rambam holds that you do front and back, and that is enough to like symbolize all 4 directions, and that's what the Meiri is saying. He's saying achor v'kedem, that covers all 4 directions, and then up also covers down. Okay, so this is a third metaphor, okay, for total knowledge. Sartani, okay, surrounded me, okay, which means like every movement of mine is known. Okay, so again, that's another way that you get full knowledge of something is you completely surround it. It can't go out of sight. Okay, so that's another mashal for Yedias Hashem, or God's knowledge of us. Okay, so this is all my movements. Okay, similar. Okay, 6 and 7. 6 and 7, is uplia das nismach psukim she'acharav. This is connected to the psukim after it. Klomar, amar derech mashal achrei she'diaska hikiftani mikol tzad. Since your knowledge encompasses it circles me from every side. Hine nifla'a das mimeni v'niskava. Therefore, knowledge is too wondrous for me and too high up. Klomar, rotzlomar chazaka achlo uchala. Too strong for me to attain it. Rotzlomar shlo uchal ladata. I can't know it. Kishe'echatalach. Oh, okay. This is good. Kishe'echatalach ve'ertza lehisater mi ruchacha. And I want to hide from you. Rotzlomer meritzonacha ukzeras galai. Meaning, when I want to hide from your will and your decree upon me, ana elech v'ana mipanecha evrach. Where can I go? Where can I flee from you? Uplia kasub bifaneha pilia nigzar min v'hu pili ki chen amar pili pilos v'yamar gamkein mimenu plia kedercha kri kumo minavi nevia. Okay, that's there's another creative there. V'ana elech milara v'ana elech. Klomar ana anachnu olim. Okay, fine. So this is saying, because your knowledge is all encompassing, there is no hope of me attaining it. And when I sin and I want to hide from you, i.e., from your decree, from your will and decree, I can't escape. Okay, this I think is a key point here. Okay, and this is a point that that is universal. Okay, but also I'll just throw out the question. I think you were familiar with the answer already, but I'll throw it out anyway. Question is, like, what do these two things have to do with each other, right? Like why is he talking about God's total knowledge, and it's saying, what I want to hide from your decree, I can't escape. Yeah, Isaiah.
Well, I was thinking about like specifically what was said about the directions and like God having like sort of given us like knowledge of like our movements.
Yeah.
Is like in the same way that God has like control over like our ability of like where we're able to go, God also has control over like our ability of like what actions we're able to choose to do.
Okay.
And like the choice that he gave us. It's like a similar like.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna. I don't think that's the answer, but I think that is a good answer. Okay, I don't think that's his answer. I mean, so the question is what do these two themes have to do with each other? Okay, Isaiah's answer is just as there are laws that govern what nature does, so too there are laws that govern what human beings do. Actually, you know what? I take it back. I think you are saying what I'm about to say, but you're saying it from a different direction. Standard answer is Hashem's Yediyah equals Hashem's Hashgacha, right? Is that God's knowledge is a metaphor for God's supervision and God's involvement. That's why we say like Hester Panim, God hiding his face, or God, we did earlier in the God being asleep, means that he doesn't know what's going on. But what does that mean? It means that he is not governing things, or it appears that he's not governing things, So escaping from God's knowledge is synonymous with escaping from God's decree, his punishment, And I think the reason why this is the other side of the coin that you're saying is you're talking about what God is commanding us to do. And he's talking about like the consequence of violating that command. And they are two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Okay. Onward. Yeah, Ayala.
I just find it interesting, like, to note the different parts or like aspects of David that he was saying Hashem knows, and specifically like focusing a lot on movement and like a little bit on thoughts. But I feel like movement is like a weird thing to focus on, especially with this like pasuk 6 and 7 being like when David sins or whatever. Like that doesn't seem like it has to do directly with movement.
Yeah. Okay, good. So
it seems more like mitzvos of eros.
So much on movements and so little on thought, especially given this emphasis on sin. Yeah, so I think I can answer that just based on what he set up earlier, which is that, and this might not be the strongest answer, but you know, you know, speaking, you should speak about these words that I command you today when you sit down and when you rise up and when you go on your way and when you lie down. So you could say, you know, why focus on those four movements, you know, and his answer that he gave earlier is, you know, those represent like all the states that man can be in and everything in between. So I think the drift of what he's doing here is when he's talking about like, you know, like your question, your observation is saying that it feels too particularized and removed from like the inyan of like keeping mitzvos and stuff, I think. And I think he's saying, no, the contrary, like not only does God watch me put on tefillin and daven, he watches all movements, you know, and everything I'm doing at every moment. So I think it's taken for granted that it is talking about the mitzvos, you know, and I think that is also, that might also be why he talks about thoughts less. And you see, he's only talking about thoughts in terms of speech. No, actually, no, he did say Banta Lemira. But I guess because this is focusing on thoughts insofar as the mitzvah system is going, which is not like, you know, every fleeting thought that comes to your head, but like any like real machshava. Yeah, possible answer. Okay, let's go onward. By the way, I want to keep going. Oh, we'll see what happens. Okay, it is a long perek, but I kind of don't want this to be a 3-week one, but whatever. Actually, you know what I did? I highlighted the ones I wanted to read in case we ran out of time, which is what's happening right now. Okay, so I mean they're all good, but oh man, yeah. See, like when it says the wings of the dawn, I mean, like look at this. Klomar derech mashal for the kanfei shachar. Kishe es noea im tnuas hashachar mimizrach lamarav. Ve'eshkana b'achris yam rozlomer besof hamarav. Gam sham yad hatani. V'dima tnuas hashachar leknaf. So it's comparing the dawn to wings because of the swiftness of its movement. What that means is like when it, I mean, the modern terms of this is like the speed of light. Like as it goes, the dawn just travels across the sky like almost instantly, but it's in the sky, so it's like flying, you know. Okay, let me just isolate the main Meiris here that I wanted to highlight here. Let's go to 12. So 12, no, 13. No, oh, that's 4 now. Okay, apparently I did Sforno also, but Meiri, oh, here is Meiri on Hafucha. That's what I'm looking for. Hafucha, okay. Oh yeah, so it starts off over here. Okay. Odecha al kinoraos nifles. Oh, so the part that we skipped, by the way, was talking. Oh, no, this is all important. Wah. Okay, you know what? We should be thorough. Okay, so we should be thorough here. I apologize. This is going to take longer than I thought. Okay, so then maybe we will do a third part. Such is life. Okay. Now, knowing the Meiri, I don't think he means that God exists everywhere. You know, I think he means that you can be found in every place. God can be found in every place. Klomer she'asim mitzi she'ol who omek ha'aretz hinekav im omer esakan ve'shachar klomar derech mashash esnoyesh im tenus ha'shachar mimizrach lamarav. Okay, I just read that. Then you're there. Okay, fine. Okay, neshef v'shuf in yenachvu choshech klomar derech mashal im echshav lehisater b'im penach b'macham choshech v'omer bilti she'achoshech yushufeni rotz lomer yachshicheni mimacha shelo tire osi v'es ma'asai hine gam choshech lo yachshich mimeka ach laila kiyom ya'ir v'kachashecha ka'ora hakol shav lefanach. Okay, so that's more of the same. Okay, that's that was 8 through 12. Is that I can't hide from you no matter where I go. Okay, that's the light thing. Okay, so let's just get this here. 8 through 12. I can't hide from you in any of my actions, no matter where I go or how fast I get there. Okay, then we've got 13. Ki ata kanisa kilios. You created my kilios, my klios. Rotzalomer chidasha. You made them new. Ki hamtsaas mash eno yikare kinyan. Because it's explaining kinyan. Konei Shemayim V'Aretz means you made it out of nothing. V'amar Ki Liyosai Shehu Ladas Kadum Makor Machshavah. Oh, interesting. He says, according to an ancient opinion, that's the seat of thought. I wonder if that means that by the time the Meiri came along, then they no longer thought of the kidneys as the seat of thought. If so, this is big, by the way, because this is the Meiri saying that David Melech got physiology wrong. That's very interesting. Klomar, ve'achar she'ata himtasa makor hamachshava, since you created the source of thought, eich ye'alem mimeka, how can it be hidden from you? Okay, I got to pause this to make a controversial point. Okay. Some say that kidneys are a stand-in for the whole body. Kim gormas haguf. So speaking about outdated physiology, I guess they thought that that semen is produced ultimately in the kidneys. Okay, so in other words, by saying you fashioned my kidneys, that's like saying you fashioned the source from which my body came. That'd be like the equivalent nowadays saying like you created my DNA. Like me from from scratch, from the bottom up. To or ubasar v'atamas beginim. You wrapped me like a shawarma. Okay, I'm only saying that because of all the Israeli restaurants here. Okay, yeah. So so what was this point here? So 13 is you created my thoughts or my body. The source of my thoughts / body. Therefore you know them. Okay, and look, there is an intuitive sense of that, of like, you're going to say that the one who created human beings doesn't know how they work, like that's ridiculous, And I think this is particularly relevant, by the way, if you're talking about like hiding from God, those who were with us in the Mishlei shiur on Monday about like, if you hide, it was a Baz L'Davar Yichavelo, one who makes light of something, scorns something, will be wounded by it. And Isaiah's interpretation on Monday night was like, if you take a certain area and just say, oh, I don't need to like think about that through Chachma, it's going to come back to bite you. We do that when it comes to the consequences of Averos, and like in your psyche, like we say like, oh, yeah, God designed this for the sake of our psychological, emotional perfection, but like this is not going to have any effect on me. Like, really? Like you're saying that like the God who designed man's psyche like didn't know what he was doing, So it is a common excuse. After talking about the creation of the fetus, Amari says, Odcha, I thank you. You've astonished me with all these wondrous things in my creation from your actions. Okay, so here he reads it differently. Okay, and the Radak also does this. So we translated this poorly as my soul knows exceedingly. Okay, but look how he does it. Umilas me'od hafucha, it's reversed. Klomar, niflaim ma'asecha bibria me'od, v'nafshi yodas. So the way to translate it is, your creations are exceedingly wondrous, and my soul knows. Okay. Mash inkain bashar balichaim. Okay. So this is going to answer our question about how can he emphasize his lack of knowledge, but the fact that he has knowledge. So he says, Mash inkain bashar balichaim, which is not the case with the other animals. Sha'afal pi ma'asav niflaim gam kain b'tirasam, even though God's actions are also wondrous in their creation. B'tchunas ha'avarim v'toalosehem, v'mizge hakochos v'toaltam, in the anatomy of the positioning of their limbs and their benefits, and the mixtures of their the temperaments of their faculties and their benefits. Kamoshi yadua l'chachamim b'nituach, as chachamim. Whoa, that's interesting. Kamoshi yadua l'chachamim b'nituach. I think that means like the chachamim know through dissection. Nituach is like unasacha, lintoch b'nasachav, like to slice it up, So I think he's saying like you see, this is where you see the coolness of Provence. I mean, like this stuff was happening in Provence. Rashi like it's not talking about that stuff because I don't think it was like happening in northern France when the Crusades were going on. All right, mikol makom ein nafsham yodas. Nevertheless, their souls don't know because they don't have a rational soul like I do. Okay, so he's saying, my soul is astonished by its knowledge of the wonders of your creation, and my soul knows it, unlike the souls of the other animals, which lack rationality. Okay. 15. I think we're going to get to the end. We might go a little bit over, but if you have to go, you have to go. Lo nichachad, lo nelam. It means it's not concealed. Atzmi, rotzlomer, atzmiusi mimcha, my essence. Lo nelam inyan haviyasi mimcha. My being is not hidden from you. So he's using atzmi as my being. Asher, okay, usesi b'seish. Okay, this is also going to get a little complicated and icky. Remez al haklatas hazera haba eleha derech isui. Okay, so he's commenting on this usesi. It's a weird lashon. Okay, so okay, I'm just going to skip all this. This is all how they thought that the semen then went and was received, and then the body was formed from it. Okay, so like and then that's what it says. It's the tachtios aretz, which is a mushroom for like the lower parts of the woman, So the main point is like you know how conception works, okay, and how I was conceived by my mother. Okay, and we have to update that for modern knowledge. Okay, the galmi rotzlomer golim below tzura, meaning the form with a matter without form. Ramaz al hashlamas kodem hanasan haruach bo. Oh, so this is cool also. Let me just read this pasuk again. 16. Your eyes saw my unchanged form, and in your book all were recorded. So what does that mean? So golim b'lutzura ramaz al hashlamaso kodem hinasin haruach bo. So you knew my body's material before the spirit was put into it. V'ra'u einecha mashal ayidia brur. This is another mashal for clear knowledge. Ki yidiyas hamuchash hamurgash. Okay, so your eyes saw. Ra'u einecha equals your eyes saw, okay, which is knowledge, which is as clear as if seen, perceived by the senses. So again, this is another mashal for divine knowledge, that when you see something with your own eyes, it's not the same mashal as investigating it or habituating yourself with it or surrounding it. It's I saw it with my own eyes, like it's definite knowledge, So God has definite knowledge. So what does it mean that they're all written in a book? That's another mashal on the clarification of knowledge in them. Clarity of knowledge. Like book knowledge. Okay. So kulam yikasevu. Yikasevu equals written in a book. Okay. As clear as it's right there in print, okay, like clear knowledge there. Yamim yutzaru klomar sheyitziros ha'ivarim haniskaraim ena nishlamos b'yom echad. So what does it mean that you fashioned days? It means that the formation of the limbs in the fetus are not completed in one day. Rak leketz yamim, but only at the end of days. Of lo echad behem. Okay, so here's where he explains the Greek sieve. Kasuv ba'alef, it's written with an aleph. Upirusho ledati shadayin ein kavod behem. Okay, so he's saying velo echad behem, and not one in them. What does that mean? Shadayin ein kavod hakel behem. The glory of God is not yet in them. Rotzalomar haruach hanafshi, the spiritual soul. Kolomar yamim heim omdim below haruach hanafshi. The fetus goes days without the rational spirit being in it. The heim ladas katas chachamim are ba'im yom l'zachar or shmonim leisha. Some chachamim hold that that's 40 days for the man and 80 days for the woman. I don't think we hold that anymore. V'kara hakoach hasichli echad. It calls the rational faculty one, lios miyuchad shebo, because of the unique quality in it. Okay, so he's reading this as are we still in pasuk 15? Or are we at 16 now? No, we're at 16. Okay, so 16 is saying, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so 16 is saying, you knew my soulless fetus, and before the unique faculty was in them. Okay, sorry, not you knew my souls. My fetus was without a soul for many days before the unique faculty was in them. Okay, so that's one interpretation. And then he's going to interpret with the other low. The other low is, I lost my place. Okay, Vakri Bavav Upirusha Ladati Gamkin Vilo Rotalamar Lo Lakel Chelek Echabem. To God belongs the one in them. Rotalamar Hakoch Hasechli. So that's an example of like how to learn a Greek sieve, right? So you read this pasuk. Where is it here? Galmi Ra'ui Nechav Sifra Kulmi Kasev Yam Yusaru Velo Echabehem. The unique part of man was not in them, or to God is the unique one in them, so it's pointing to the same idea, but from different angles. Okay. I'm really of two minds. Maybe we should stop now. Let's stop at the pivot. Okay. That is a natural stopping point. And then next time we'll try to do the rest of the year and then unify it. And then maybe we'll do it with someone else as well. Okay. I don't want to rush it. It's too good to rush. Okay. He goes on and he says, he gives a funny drasha. Yom HaKippurim. The God has one of them, that's referring to Yom HaKippurim. Nearly lefizeh sheim darshu ha'in al emunas hagmul ba'onesh. Says they're interpreting the whole thing about the reward and punishment. V'hu ladati inyan niflaim ma'asacham nafshi yodas ki zem min hadavarim habilti nodaim b'mofes. I'm going to skip that part. Let's go on to this. Uma yakru kumo v'davar shem haya yakar. So it means like rare. So he's saying, what was 17 again? To me, how lima yakru re'echa, how rare are your thoughts? So what does that mean? V're'echa klomer machshavah secha. Klomer yakru be'enai machshavah secha shelo uchal lahasikim. That I can't grasp them. Okay, meaning that it's like not attainable by me. Uma atzmu rotlomer ma rabu roshehem. How numerous are their headings? Rotlomer hasagas klaleim, the grasping of their general principles. V'koshkein hasagas prateim, and all the more so grasping of the particulars. Lifamim tavu milas otzem milashon riboy. Okay, otzem might mean numerous. Kumo atzmuli almanosav michal yom. Okay, so this is, we got one more after this. So this is your thoughts are too rare, i.e. Inaccessible to me, and it is impossible to grasp their universals and certainly their particulars. Okay, so this is like a real humility in the face of knowledge. Okay, then we get to 18. Asaprem Rotzlamar im avol lemnosam. If I were to count them, leucha, I couldn't. Kimichol yerbion, they're more numerous than the sand. Vaf im hekitzosi Rotzlamar she'egzol shenasai me'enai, meaning Rotzlamar, I pulled an all-nighter. V'yom v'layla es boded bahem. And I devoted myself, I secluded myself day and night for them. V'odi imach, and you would still be with me. If I were to spend every waking moment involved in studying your wonders, I wouldn't be able to reach them. Now, before we stop here, any observations on, like, now that we've seen the Meiri on the first half of this perek here? Let me actually copy and paste it again. Meiri. Yeah. So any observations that you get from this this entire thing? I mean, I know that's a general question. Yeah, Tamar?
I feel like this is a little bit more specific. Like I think it's less, the emphasis is away from the not escaping, and it's on the completeness of God's knowledge and the
I think
qualities
so
of God's
also.
knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, right? So we have observations. So from Tamar is the Meiri learns this to be much more about God's all-encompassing knowledge and man being in awe of it, okay, than our assumption about the inescapability. Yeah, escapability. Yeah. I have one more observation as well, which is that remember that David is modeling how we should be relating to the world, So like this feeling of being in awe at all of God's knowledge that's everywhere around us and connecting that to the inescapability, I think that is an important thing that we should think about, because I did not think about that as a route for like, we all know that there's like a move that the Yetzer Hara does of like, trying to get away from God, right? But I did not really think about that in terms of like science and knowledge of God being the antidote to that. So that's, I think we should think about. I'm going to just note this relationship between the Yetzer Hara's pitfall of saying that you can run away from God and knowledge of science as the antidote. Yeah, Isaiah?
I think it's interesting. There's kind of like 3 topics in this first half. There's
Yeah.
like man's physical form, man's knowledge, and then also God's knowledge.
That's
Seems
interesting.
to be like the things he's talking about.
Okay, so let's just put this here. So 3 topics are covered. Man's knowledge, man's physical form, God's knowledge, and man's knowledge. Okay, yeah, Ayala.
Just a question about like what David HaMelech is prompting him to reflect in this way. Is it based off of like knowledge of just like Torah and Hashkafa in the world, that he knows that God knows all of these things, or is there specifically like through studying nature he's realizing how much Hashem knows?
Not sure. Yeah, I mean, you got to assume it comes from nature, because there's so much of Tehilim which is about studying nature, but certainly the Torah is the framework. So I don't know which aspects he got from which. The Meiri is certainly learning it as though like, the implication of this is that you should study the human body and study animal bodies and study like, the universe in detail. But yeah. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the Meiri's commentary. I mean, it's just like, it really highlights like how to read Tehillim sensitively, and you can see the themes emerging. So I'm excited to continue this next week. And I'm glad we didn't rush it. That would have been bad. Okay. Thanks for coming, and see you later. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.